I'm 82, and I didn't read about the 1950s. I was the kid in the back of that station wagon. Here are 7 things our parents did back then that would bring somebody to your door today. And number 5 is the one I've had grown men tell me to my face never happened. Stick with me and let's go back. Nobody wore a seatbelt because most cars didn't have one to wear. That's the plain fact, and people under 60 have trouble with it. My father's was a 1949 Ford, and there was no belt in that car. None. Not in the front, not in the back. They weren't standard equipment in an American car until 1968, and even then plenty of folks cut them out of the way or tucked them down into the seat because they were a nuisance. So here's what a Sunday drive looked like in 1954. 6 of us in that Ford. My mother in front with the baby on her lap. On her lap, in the front seat, with the window down. Me and my brother loose in the back, standing up half the time, arms over the front seat to see where we were going. My sister lying flat on that shelf under the rear window, like a cat in the sun, because that shelf was the best seat in the car, and every kid in America knew it. The vinyl got hot enough in July to leave a mark on the back of your legs. The whole car smelled like warm plastic in my father's Chesterfields. And when he came up on a stop sign too quick, his right arm would come off the wheel and across my mother's chest. And that was the safety system. That arm, that was it. I can still feel it. He had a carpenter's forearm, and he'd catch you square in the collarbone, and you'd hear the air go out of you, and nobody thought a thing about it. Now, I want to say something honest here, because it's easy to make all this into a story about how much tougher we were, and that's not the story. Children died. That's the part nobody puts in these nostalgia videos. Every one of those rules you find so silly now got written because somebody's boy went through a windshield on a Tuesday, and there was a family in some town that never got over it. I know of one. I'm not going to say more than that. So no, I wouldn't have it back. I'd put my grandchildren in those seats they use now and buckle every strap twice. But I'll tell you what we did have, and it's a strange thing to have lost. We were never once told that the world was dangerous. Not once. And a boy who has never been told that walks out the door differently than a boy who has. That's the trade, and I don't know that anybody's ever properly counted it. There's one more piece of it, and it's the part that gets me every time I see a family loading up now. That rear window shelf. You'd lie up there on your back with the whole sky going past over your face, telephone wires ticking by, and the sun coming through that glass hot enough to put you to sleep in about 4 minutes. It's the closest thing to flying a boy in 1954 was ever going to get. My sister claimed it most trips because she was smallest, and there was a system about it that involved a good deal of arguing in the driveway before we ever left. And I'll tell you the strangest thing. My father drove that Ford about 150,000 miles with children rolling around loose in the back of it, and he was a careful man. He was a careful man his whole life. He measured twice on everything he ever built. It wasn't carelessness. There was simply nothing in his head, or anybody else's, that said a car was a thing that could do that to a child. The thought had not arrived yet. That's what people get wrong about the 50s. We weren't reckless. We were unaware, which is a different animal entirely, and considerably harder to be angry at. The car was only the start of it, though. What my mother sent me to buy at 10 years old is the one that stops people cold. If an old carpenter's memory is worth a few minutes of your week, hit subscribe. It keeps me company out here. My mother sent me to the store to buy her cigarettes, and I was about 10 years old. A pack ran around 23 cents in 1955. She'd give me a quarter and a note in her handwriting, and the note said something like, "It's all right for Walter to buy my cigarettes." That's all. A woman's handwriting on a torn piece of paper, and that was the whole system. I'd walk the 4 blocks to Gagnon's on the corner. Wooden floor, a bell on the door, and a glass case at the front with penny candy in it. Mr. Gagnon would read the note without much interest. reach behind him, and set the pack on the counter. Then he'd give me 2 cents change, and I'd stand at that glass case for about 4 minutes deciding what to do about it. That was the arrangement. She got her cigarettes, I got 2 cents, and everybody was satisfied. Now, the part people really don't credit, it wasn't just that a child could buy them, it's where they got smoked. In that Ford in January, with every window up, both my parents going at once, the heater on, and 4 children in the back of a sealed car for an hour and 10 minutes to my grandmother's house in Orono. You could see the layer of it up near the ceiling of that car, moving slow, like weather. Nobody cracked a window. It never crossed anybody's mind that there was a reason to, and it was in the house, and in the doctor's waiting room, and on the bus, and in the hospital, and my wool coat smelled of it from October to April every year of my childhood. I didn't notice. You can't smell a thing you're standing in. And it wasn't only the parents. There was a machine in the lobby of the Bangor house and a machine at the bowling alley. And a machine wants a coin, not an age. Any boy in that town with a quarter could have walked out with a pack and nobody would have been standing there to stop him. We didn't, mostly. Not because it was forbidden, because it was 23 cents, and 23 cents was 2 comic books and a bottle of Moxie, and a boy of 10 has his priorities. Roland Pelletier tried one behind the Grange Hall when we were about 12 and was sick against the wall for a quarter of an hour, which put the pair of us off it for good. I'm no historian, and I'll not pretend to be one. All I know is what the inside of that car looked like, and that a boy of 10 walked home down Cedar Street with a pack of Chesterfields in his coat pocket and 2 cents in his fist, and not one adult who saw him thought anything at all about it. And I'll say the honest part, same as with the cars. My mother smoked for about 40 years, and it is what finished her, and I'll not go into it beyond that. She'd have laughed at anybody who told her so in 1955. Everybody smoked. The men who came to fix the furnace smoked in the cellar. There was an ashtray in the waiting room at the doctor's office, and I remember exactly what it looked like. Heavy glass, green, with a groove cut in each of the 4 sides. You could not have talked a soul out of it. Not one. It wasn't a decision anybody was making. Send a 10-year-old for that today, and you'd have a good deal more than a conversation on your hands. But being trusted with an errand was nothing. What we were trusted with on a Saturday would empty a school in about an hour. You went out after breakfast and you came home when the streetlights came on, and nobody in this world knew where you were. Not roughly, not generally, nobody knew. There was no telephone in your pocket. There was one phone in the house on the wall in the kitchen, and it was for grown people, and long distance cost money. If my mother had needed me at 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday in 1955, she had exactly one option, which was to walk out onto the porch and holler. So here's the shape of a Saturday. Screen door slaps behind you at 8:30. You're back at the table when the light's gone, and in June and Maine, that's after 8 in the evening. That's 11, 12 hours. We were on the Penobscot most of it, down the bank, out on the rocks, up in the trees along the water. Some of those trees I climbed were 40 feet, and I climbed them in leather-soled shoes because that's what a boy had. One Saturday, me and a boy named Roland Pelletier decided we'd walk the river until we found where it went. We were 9. We walked, I'd guess, 5 or 6 miles up along that water until the bank got too thick to push through, and then we walked all the way back and I sat down at my mother's table at about 8:15 with a bowl in front of me. She asked if I'd washed. That's what she asked me. Not where were you? Not who were you with? She wanted to know about my hands because there was food on the table. And I want to be careful here because there's a lazy version of this where the old man says his mother didn't care, and it's meant to sound charming. My mother cared a great deal. She'd have gone into that river after me without stopping to put down what she was holding. It's that the whole street ran that way. Every single house on Cedar Street let their children out in the morning and got them back at dark. And a woman who tried to do it differently would have been the strange one. What ended it wasn't parents getting soft. It was that the street stopped being full. Once there weren't 40 children out there and 8 mothers at 8 kitchen windows. One child alone on a riverbank is a different proposition entirely, and everybody knew it at about the same time. There's a thing about those hours that I have never been able to explain to my own children, and I've tried twice. Nobody was managing us. That's the whole of it. There was no adult anywhere in that day deciding what we ought to be doing, and so we had to decide, and we decided badly a good deal of the time, and that was how you found out. We built a raft one summer. 3 of us, 9 and 10 years old, out of scrap and a length of rope, and we put it in the Penobscot, and it came apart about 40 feet out. Water was cold enough to take your breath. We got ourselves to the bank and we walked home wet, and we did not tell a living soul, and I have never told anybody until right now. There was no grown person to tell. That's what I mean. The whole thing, the deciding, the failing, the getting out of the water, the walking home, the entire event happened inside the world of children, and no adult ever knew it occurred. I don't recommend it. My mother would have gone white, and I could not tell you what I'd be if it hadn't happened. Because a boy who has got himself out of a river at 9 knows something about himself that cannot be handed to him any other way. That's the honest accounting, and it doesn't come out clean either. It never does with this one. And those 8 kitchen windows brings me to the next one, because those women weren't only watching their own. Any adult on that street could correct you, and they did. And your mother would take their side before she'd take yours. That's the one that lands hardest on people now, and I understand why. If Mrs. Thibodeau, 3 doors down, caught you cutting through her garden, she did not ring your mother. She took you by the arm right there and told you exactly what she thought of you. And then she rang your mother, and the news got home before you did. Every time. I never once beat that phone call, and I tried. And at school there was a paddle. It hung on a nail in the office, and it wasn't decorative. I had it twice. Once in the 4th grade for something I did deserve, and once in the 6th for something I did not. And I've never entirely got over the second one. You didn't tell your parents. That's the part. There was no percentage in telling your parents, because the standing position in every house on that street was that the teacher was right. My father's view was that if I'd got the paddle, I'd earned it. And if I hadn't earned it that day, I'd earned it some other day, and it evened out. Now I'm going to say the honest thing about this one, same as I did about the cars. Some of it went too far. It did. There were men teaching in those schools who liked it more than they should have, and there were houses on that street where what happened had nothing to do with correction, and everybody knew which houses, and nobody said a word. So I'll not sit here and tell you it was better. Some of it was bad, and it stayed bad, because the whole arrangement depended on nobody looking too closely. What we did have, and this one I do miss, is that a child on that street was everybody's business. Not just watched, claimed. If you fell off a bicycle at the far end of Cedar Street, 4 doors open before you'd finish crying, you can't have the second thing without opening the door to the first. I've turned that over for 60 years and I've never got it to come out clean. And there was a version of it I've come to value more than the discipline, which is that those women fed us. Not as a kindness anybody remarked on. If you were on Cedar Street at noon and hungry, you went in whichever door was nearest, and a woman put something in front of you without asking whose child you were. She knew whose child you were. Everybody knew whose child everybody was, and that's the piece that made the whole arrangement work. I ate at Mrs. Thibodeau's table probably 200 times. The same woman who had me by the arm in her garden in June had me at her table in July, and there was no contradiction in it for anybody. She cut a sandwich corner to corner, which my mother never did. And to this day, when I cut one that way, I'm 9 years old in a kitchen that isn't mine. She's gone. So is my mother. So is every woman who stood at one of those 8 windows. And there's nobody left alive who could tell you which house had the good porch and which had the dog you kept clear of. That's the actual loss, not the paddle. 8 women who knew every child by name and would put food in front of any of them, and no arrangement I have seen since has replaced it. But all of that is ordinary compared to what happened on a summer evening, and this is the one I promised you. Remember I said number 5 would be the one nobody believes? Here it is. On summer evenings, a truck came through the neighborhood spraying a thick white fog, and every child on the street got on a bicycle and rode into it on purpose. That's not a story. That happened in Bangor most weeks of the summer for years. You'd hear it before you saw it. A heavy motor coming slow, maybe walking pace. Then the fog would come around the corner of Cedar Street, white, thick as anything, rolling low and filling the whole road curb to curb. It had a sweet smell. That's what I remember most. Faintly sweet and a bit oily, and it hung in the air behind the truck for a good while after it had gone. We rode into it, all of us. That was the entire game. You got your bicycle and you got in behind that truck, and you rode in the cloud where you could not see the road, the curb, or each other. You'd hear another boy laughing somewhere to your left, and you'd steer at the sound. I did that on a red Schwinn with a cracked seat that my father got secondhand off a man at the mill for $4. And here's the part that gets me. My mother stood on that porch and watched us do it. She'd call us in for supper right out of the middle of it. Roland's mother did the same. Nobody on that street thought it was anything at all. It was just the truck. And the truck came through, and the children rode behind the truck. You would not see that anywhere in this country now. Not for a minute. There'd be a line of cars stopped, and somebody would be on the phone before that truck reached the end of the block. I've thought about it a good deal, and I've never worked out what to do with it. It was ordinary. That's the only honest thing I can say. Ordinary all the way through, and every one of us thought it was the best part of the summer. And I'll tell you a detail that comes back to me every single time, because it's the one that makes people go quiet when I say it out loud. The fog didn't clear right away. It sat in the road. So after the truck had gone on up the street and the noise of it had faded, there was this white river standing there between the curbs, waist high on a boy, and the last of us would still be riding through it in the quiet. You'd come out the far end of it, and your face would be damp, and there'd be a taste to it, faintly sweet, sitting on your tongue. I can taste it right now, 70 years on. That's the honest truth. I can call up that taste faster than I can call up the name of a man I worked with for a decade. My mother would be on the step with the door open behind her, and she'd say supper, and I'd lay that Schwinn down in the grass and go in, with my hair wet from it, and sit at that table. And this is what I keep coming back to about number 5. Nobody was doing anything wrong. Not the town, not the man driving that truck, not my mother on the step, not one of us on those bicycles. Everybody involved was doing exactly what everybody agreed was normal in Bangor, Maine, in about 1955. Which is the part that ought to keep any of us humble, I'd think. Because there is something going on in every house in this country right now that our grandchildren will not be able to believe we allowed. And not one of us can tell you what it is. We never can. That's the whole lesson of that white fog, and it took me 60 years to get to it. Now, if you've got this far and you're nodding along at 3 or 4 of these, I want to say something to you directly. You're part of the last group of people who will ever remember any of it firsthand. Not from a book, not from a video, from the inside. When we're gone, all of this becomes something people read about and don't quite believe, the way we couldn't quite believe our own grandparents. So tell me in the comments, how old were you when you were first let out on your own all day? Just the number. That's all I want. I read every single one of them, and I answer as many as these old hands allow. Now, number 6, and it's the one my own children didn't believe until I showed them the money. I had a paper route at 8 years old, alone, in the dark, in a Maine winter. 51 customers. I was out the door by 5:30 in the morning, 6 days a week, and I did it for 4 years. You want to know what that's actually like? It's dark, properly dark. No light in anybody's window, streetlights every third pole. It's cold enough some mornings that the snot froze in your nose, and I mean that plainly. The canvas bag went over your head and across your chest, and full it weighed a good deal more than a boy of 8 ought to be carrying, and it pulled on your neck the whole route. I lost the feeling in my fingers most of December and January. You'd get them back around the 4th house on the way home, And it hurt worse coming back than it did going. Collections were Fridays. I knocked on 51 doors and asked grown adults for money at 8 years of age, and some of them made me come back 3 times. Here's the anecdote, and it's why the money mattered to me. Second winter I did that route, I saved from October and I bought my mother a wristwatch at the jeweler's on Main Street for $11 and change. It was not a good watch. I knew it wasn't a good watch even then, and the man selling it to me knew, and he wrapped it up anyway and did not say one word about it. She wore that watch every single day until she died. Every day. It didn't keep time within 20 minutes by the end, and she wore it anyway. I've got it in a drawer in the front room right now. Now, a boy of 8 cannot do that today, and I'm not saying he should. There are rules about hours and ages, and there's a reason for every one of them. And I've read enough about what children were doing in this country in 1910 to be glad somebody wrote those rules down. But there's a thing that job gave me that I've never found another way to give anybody. At 8 years old, I knew from the inside that if I got up and did something unpleasant for 4 months, I could put a watch on my mother's wrist. You can tell a child that. It doesn't take. He has to feel it in his fingers on a January morning. There's something else in it that I only understood once I'd been a father myself. Those 51 houses knew me. That's what a paper route actually was. It wasn't the money and it wasn't the walking. It was that by the time I was 9 years old, there were 51 front doors in this town where the people inside knew my name and knew I turned up. Old Mr. Sear on Fern Street left a nickel in an envelope taped to the storm door every Friday, whether he was home or not, for 4 years, and I never once had a conversation with that man beyond the weather. But he trusted a 9-year-old with a nickel a week for 4 years, and I have thought about that more than I've thought about most of the jobs I had as a grown man. You can't buy a child that. There's no arrangement now where a boy of 9 is known by 51 households and shows up to every one of them in the dark and gets counted on. And I'd not put a boy of 8 out in a Maine winter to get it. I want that clear. Some of those mornings were genuinely too much, and my mother knew it and let me go anyway because we needed the money. And that's the truth of it, and there's no polishing it. Both things sit in the same memory, and neither one cancels the other. And that's nothing next to what my father let me do on a Saturday. My father put a framing hammer in my hand on a live job site when I was 10 years old. Not a toy. A 20-ounce S-twing, which was too much hammer for me, and he knew it, and he gave it to me anyway. He worked at the mill up in Millinocket during the week, and Saturdays he did carpentry for extra money. Additions, porches, a set of stairs, whatever a man in Bangor needed doing. And from the time I was about 10, he took me along. There was no hard hat. There was no boot with a toe in it. I was up on staging he'd knocked together out of 2x10s, in leather-soled shoes, 10 feet off frozen ground, handing him nails out of my pocket. The smell of it is the thing I've never lost. Cut pine on a cold morning has a smell to it that I would know in a dark room today, 72 years on. Sawdust in the cuff of your trousers. The particular sound a framing hammer makes when a man who knows what he's doing sets a nail in 2 strokes, one to start it, one to sink it. And my father did it in 2 his whole life, and I've never once been able to do it in fewer than 3. He didn't teach me. I want to be exact about that because it matters. He never said a word about technique. He handed me a hammer and let me be wrong for about 2 years. And every so often he'd take it off me and do it right where I could see and hand it back. That was the whole of my education, and it was worth more than anything I've been given since. Today that job site would be shut down inside 20 minutes, and my father would be in a considerable amount of trouble. A 10-year-old on staging, no helmet, no harness. A live nail gun would be nothing to what he had me doing with a hand tool. And I've got no argument to make about that. Boys got hurt. I saw a man lose 2 fingers on a site in 1957, and I was standing about 8 feet from him. But that trade fed my family for 45 years. It built the house I'm sitting in. It paid for 2 children through school, and it put a roof on this place twice. And every bit of it came out of Saturdays with a man who never explained anything. He died at 51. I was 23. So I got about 13 years of those Saturdays, and I have spent the 60 since trying to work out how much I actually learned in them. And I still don't know. My hands know things I have no memory of being told. That's the part nobody can put in a rule book, either way. They were right to make the rules. Children shouldn't be up on staging in leather shoes. And a boy who spends every Saturday of his childhood beside his father, doing the thing his father does, comes out the other end holding something that I have not seen any other arrangement produce. There's one Saturday I go back to more than the rest, and it's not a dramatic one. I'd have been about 12. We were closing in a porch on Hammond Street, and it started to rain hard around 11, and we sat in the cab of his truck with the windows going gray and ate what my mother had put up, sandwiches in waxed paper and coffee out of a plaid thermos. And he let me have coffee, which I did not like, and drank anyway. We sat in that truck about 40 minutes, and I don't believe he said 9 words. That's it. That's the whole memory. 2 people not talking in a truck in the rain in about 1956. And it is worth more to me than every conversation I've had since, and I could not tell you why. And I've stopped trying to work it out. I'd not know how to give that to a grandson now. I've thought about it, and there's no lawful way to do it. And I'm not sure the man I'd be doing it with would be my father anyway. That's the whole of it. 7 things, and I lived every one. And the boy who did all that is 82 years old and sitting in a house he built with the hands that hammer taught. What I've come around to after all these years is that we didn't do those things because we were brave, and we didn't do them because we were fools. We did them because nobody had told us yet. And once somebody tells you, you can't unknow it, and you shouldn't want to. I'd take the rules and keep the Saturdays if anybody was offering. Nobody is. Thank you for sitting with an old man a while. If this brought something back, go watch I'm 82. What a Saturday morning really looked like in 1955 next. I'll meet you there.